I have with me Professor Manyeruke. She is the Dean of the Faculty of Social Studies at the University of Zimbabwe, just to analyze those results in the manner that we normally do in media. Professor Manyeruke, thank you very much for joining us. Now,
thank you for inviting me.
So when you look at the result and the disparity between urban and rural area voters, what does that tell you, and why do you think that is so?
I think that the differences between the urban results and the rural results, really show, what the preferences of those people. If you look at the urban areas, it means that they were convinced in terms of what the MDC alliance was offering, in terms of their manifesto, political manifesto, but also the practical issues that they were relating to, and whereas the rural voter, I think they put more emphasis in terms of the mature and stable leadership of Idi Mnangagwa. They were looking at continuity in terms of government. I think they have really liked what Idi, how he has reformed Zimbabwe from November 2017. People have really generally suffered in Zimbabwe. This is a impoverished economy, in which unemployment is very high. So job creation is top priority. That's what Idi Mnangagwa has been emphasizing. And particularly also, he has been emphasizing on re-engagement. So for the people that are in the rural areas, and I should say farming communities, peri-urban areas as well, gave a lot of support to Idi Mnangagwa. I think because of the land reform, in which many Zimbabweans have benefited, and a lot of economic activities have been around, the farming communities. So that also explains why Zimbabweans have put a lot of support, particularly in the rural areas, peri-urban areas. And of course, even in the urban areas, Idi has also been supported. If you look at the results, even when you talk of Harare or Bulawayo, the margins there where Nelson Chamisa has support are not very huge. So it means that Mnangagwa has a fairly large support of the electorate in this case, which supported his candidature and therefore gave him a lot of support. So it's not like Idi has no support in the urban areas. He does have a lot of support, significant support, I should say. And in most cases it was actually, neck and neck, with Nelson Chamisa. But of course, Nelson Chamisa, I think he was offering, he was, attracting particularly the first-time voters, because they've seen no better. If we're talking of the past 2 decades, that's the period of, where the new voters, experienced, and they didn't experience good things. There was case shortages, and also, isolation of Zimbabwe, and a lot of, there was no industrial growth. Even ICT development was really, is actually lagging behind. So, Chamisa was offering hope for the youngsters. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all the youngsters, as I have said. The youngsters also support, Idi Mnangagwa. We saw him interfacing with a lot of youth, interfacing with students from colleges, universities, and also, launching a lot of university programs. In particular, I know that he pronounced that his government was going to offer free access of internet in all universities. So that's speaking to the youngsters. And in particular, you also looked at the issue of offering scholarships, and also, engaging investors like Liquid Telecom, to invest in higher and tertiary education. But what gives youngsters hope under ED is the issue of job creation. and industrialization. And already, I think he got support from the youngsters. Those few that supported him were looking at the more than 20 billion, which has already been committed by foreign investors. So I think these youngsters that voted for it, were voting for hope and practical hope that they have seen. So they have also, they also like to interact with the global village. Just ED going to Davos, I'm sure got him a lot of support across the entire population. I remember that he held a town hall meeting, with the youth, and I'm sure, he got his lot of support from the youth because of that. And also that Zimbabwe as a government is also written to join the Commonwealth. It gives a lot of youngsters hope, because you remember, if you know, you know that Commonwealth has a lot of educational programs, a lot of developmental programs, so that re-engagement path that ED has set gave I'm sure him a needed advantage over Nelson Chamisa.
Right. If you look at the manifestos of both political parties, ZANU-PF and the MDC alliance, there will be people that can argue intellectually that the MDC alliance manifesto was actually one that would have hurt the urban voter, because this is where the majority of the people in the informal sector are. And they were proposing to informalize or to formalize the informal sector, and then improve the revenue collection through the 15% tax across the board. But it is the urban voter that was going for Nelson Chamisa, whereas the ZANU-PF manifesto was aimed mainly at that urban voter, an attempt to attract them. The issues you are talking about, all this investment, the job creation, all kind of centering around the urban voter, which is an irony in the way that the vote is actually gone. So do you think manifestos still have a place in an election in a country like Zimbabwe?
Manifestos still has a place, but I would want to say that if you look at the MDC Alliance manifesto and the ZANU-PF manifesto, there were a lot of convergences than divergences, because they were looking at real issues that are facing the country. They were all looking at job creation. They were all looking at modernizing, Zimbabwean infrastructure. But what has been important is the issue of, consistency in terms of messaging. I'm sure the MDC Alliance might have confused their supporters when they, at one point, they said they are in the elections. At some point, they said they are out. Then last minute, they said they are in the elections. So that alone, consistency in terms of your campaign message was very, very important. And MDC might have lagged behind in terms of that consistency. But also, when you talk of re-engagement, MDC Alliance was also talking of re-engagement. ZANU-PF was also emphasizing on re-engagement. But ZANU-PF had an added advantage because they actually practically, because it's the government, the ruling party, that actually then extended their hand to re-engage, the international community in a practical way. Whereas when you look at the MDC Alliance, they were talking, for example, about, that they would cut contracts with some countries such as China when they get into power, and that is not consistent with how the world generally is behaving in terms of international relations. Even USA, European Union is engaging China. So when you already show such inconsistencies in terms of your messaging, that you want to create jobs, but you also want to cut contracts with with some percentages or sections of international capital, it creates doubts, in terms of are you really serious about engagement? But also the issue of temper, as leaders is very important. when I remember watching a video of Nelson Chamisa actually threatening people in his own rally that they should stop behaving in the manner in which they were behaving. You, as a leader, you can use your commissariat, or other people to control your crowds as compared to you actually confronting people and using such ways as stop it in a campaign. For Zimbabwe, I think it's a bit traumatizing having gone through, what also Grace Mugabe was doing, at rallies, using the same language. So people want I think they voted for maturity in terms of the leadership. Yes, it was neck and neck, and in the end, ED won clearly, but I think the campaign messages for Chamisa must have let him down, in particular in terms of conduct, particularly, not respecting institutions such as ZEC, Zimbabwe Election Commissions. I remember when MDC Alliance just stormed the building of Zimbabwe Elections Commission, no appointment, nothing, they were rowdy. People are looking at that and they are asking themselves, is this the kind of leadership which can take Zimbabwe forward? And I am sure that the Zimbabweans that would want Zimbabwe to be peaceful, a progressive nation that is engagement, that is consultative in nature, have rejected a leadership that is rowdy, but a leadership that can sit down on the table to understand issues that are facing the nation and be able to dialogue, consult, and move forward together as a nation.
Right. One thing that surprised a lot of people was the parliamentary result. Now, why do you think there was that wide margin? Because 2/3 majority would allow ZANU-PF on its own to impeach any president from the opposition every week if they so wished.
I think the rebranding mode that ZANU-PF went into was very crucial, in winning the more than 2/3 majority in parliament. I saw ZANU-PF going on a rebranding, mode in which they, looking at transformation, whereby even their messaging, they were giving a lot of hope that they are now into this new Zimbabwe, where if you are looking at corruption, they spoke of anti-corruption drive, not only to the generality of Zimbabweans, but even within the party. I remember, at one women's assembly